Okay, welcome to our regularly scheduled city council meeting.
This is very tricky. I love cats. I have 3 cats of my own. We have a problem, and we need to figure out the best solution.
Over the years, this city has become one giant cat box.
Letting them starve in the streets is simply not humane. They're putting cat food all over the sidewalk. Is this what you
Please
want?
be respectful.
This is the
We'll
second
get
time I've
through
asked
this.
for a little bit of respect. I'm embarrassed.
The conflict between advocates of cats' rights and advocates of wild animals are at loggerheads everywhere on Earth.
There's so many different threats that feral cats pose.
I'm not afraid of a cat urinating on my foot. I'm afraid of the meth heads that go around my building and threaten me.
They're not a natural species, they're invasive to that area.
Just one feral cat in the environment is a death sentence for well over 100 animals each year. This is an emerging conservation crisis.
The cats are not the villains in this.
These animals have no voice and they have no rights.
The problem isn't that there are community cats outdoors. The problem is we're catching and killing millions of healthy cats and kittens every year with taxpayers' dollars. It is futile, and it will never work.
We have to come to some agreement.
Okay, this matters now before council. I want to thank everyone. I know we all love our little furry friends.
It's a bluebird. It's a bluebird.
Everything about birds I find fascinating. Their appearance, their behavior, their interactions with other birds and other animals. They're integral in food chains and food webs and the ecosystem, the whole gamut. Check him out. I first started noticing feral cats while I was birding down along the waterfront. I've seen them in fields, I've seen them along waterways, in lots of different habitats. There's a whole colony of cats over there.
Antioch used to be considered the jewel of the Delta. Now it's just sort of a scary place. The city has a reputation of being a broken city, of being underfunded, of still recovering from the economic collapse. The feral cats, they were dumped there by people largely who had been foreclosed or forced out of their homes. It's a visual reminder that that stuff took place, and it's a lingering effect of that era.
Genetically, a feral cat is just a domestic cat that is now living independent of humans. So they're living on their own, by their own wits, out in whatever constitutes the wild of where they live.
Everybody knows these cats exist. We know that there are nearly 80 million cats in homes that are pet cats, and we believe, no one knows for sure, but we believe that there's almost the same number of cats that live outdoors. They're in our alleyways, in our backyards, in our neighborhoods, on college campuses, in the millions.
You can't walk around in Antioch without seeing a feral cat sooner or later. You know, I don't think you could go 10 minutes. They're in every corner of the city out here, every single corner of the city.
Ivanka was actually abandoned, and she just became the office cat. I couldn't even remember how or what, just she was so cute. And just kind of seemed like we should have a bird here with the cats and the dog. Everyone gets along. On a typical day, we could take in 5 to 10 quote-unquote feral cats, and they seem to be coming in more and more. This one here obviously is saying, pet me, This cat here, see the ears go back? That's a feral cat. This is a wild mom, you can see, and her babies. So we'll have to get her babies away from her if we want to be able to adopt the babies out, because, or they're going to be like her. We'll do what we can for her and see if we can find a place for her to go and outlive her life. If not, we're going to end up having to put her to sleep, euthanize her.
The practice that has been carried out in the United States for decades is what's known as catch and kill. It's very cruel, it's very costly, and what's needed is a program that's humane and effective. There's a program called Trap, Neuter, Return. Cats are humanely trapped, transported to a veterinarian where they're spayed or neutered and vaccinated, and then they are returned to their habitat.
With an estimated 60 to 100 million feral cats, our mission is clear.
Well, when we started Alley Cat Allies 25 years ago, Trap, Neuter, Return was literally a foreign concept. Since that time, it's been a sea change, and this whole movement has inspired hundreds of thousands of these unsung heroes. They're on the cutting edge. They're on the right side of history.
This house has been vacant. Probably about 10 cats here. I caught 4 last night, and there's 2 pregnant. The neighbor just told me. I fell into this walking my dog, and I would see people dumping cats. The cats were having kittens, and there's only so many people that can take in kittens. There's only so many fosters. So I started trapping cats and getting them neutered and returning them. Ashley, this isn't for you. Come on. Come on, Ashley. You're already fixed. Here comes one. Get your dinner. Come on. Oh, please. Easy, easy. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, calm down. Got a caravan here, 3 cars.
Right there.
I've always had this compassion for animals. These cats, they seem like an extension of my own cats. They depend on us, and we have to be there for them. We have to protect them.
Listen, when I was a kid, I hated cats. Shoot, man, I hated cats. I didn't think, my mom had 2 Siamese cats. I thought, what do you want? I got dog, man, you know? Look at them running. See them on the street right there? There's Callie. They're ready to eat. We're hungry. Hi, babies. Hi, sweeties. At this point in time, we've been feeding for 12 years. Basically, you just become addicted to it. You just love them so much. They're so innocent. They're gathered up over there now. Hi, Whitey. He comes every night when we come here. Hiya, Daisy. Sometimes we've fed up as much as 170. And I don't think we fed 170 tonight, but we went through a darn lot of food there, you know.
Okay, now this is a starting right here. Check him out. I'm really troubled by the impact. I've seen more feral cats being fed. I've seen more feral cats out actively pursuing birds. They're a predator, and they're an efficient predator.
Hi, Eric. This is Veronica from Native Songbird Care. We received your call about the fledgling that was attacked by the feral cat. The answer to your question is yes. Please do bring that little guy into us as soon as possible. These guys, they're now getting fed every 45 minutes to every hour for 14 hours a day. Everything's conspiring against these guys for survival. But probably the biggest one is free-roaming cats. The cat broke her wing. To sustain those kinds of injuries, survive to the point where we can get it the care it needs, and then survive to the point for release, the odds are very, very small.
Domestic cats are an introduced species in North America. There were 0 domestic cats in North America in 1492, which means that we now have well over 100 million invasive predators, roaming the landscape, killing wildlife. Well, we don't allow feral dog colonies in this country, and people feel no less strongly about dogs than they do about cats. I think the majority of people that participate in trap, neuter, release probably have the best of intentions.
Okay.
But unfortunately, trap, neuter, release involves feeding feral cats, concentrating them, creating a colony. But when you feed outdoor cats, you're basically ringing the dinner bell for skunks, raccoons, rats, things you don't really want to encourage to come into your neighborhood.
Hey, baby, hi, raccoon. Hi, raccoon. People started complaining. They say that we're bringing the vermin to the town, the possums, the skunks, the raccoons. I think you could have went downtown Antioch long before we lived here, and there were a lot of, well, I don't like to refer them as vermin. They belong there.
City officials identified this as a problem because, in their words, the feral feeding downtown by the waterfront was getting out of hand. You had just piles of dry food next to a walking path. You have raccoons and skunks coming around. You have feces and urine.
People were feeding cats everywhere, just dumping food, creating a mess more than our animal control people could keep up with. And so we needed to eliminate that first.
The city of Antioch is trying to slow down its growing feral cat population with a new ordinance. It would make feeding cats on public property a misdemeanor.
When I learned that there was going to be a proposal to ban the feeding of cats on public property, I was much for it.
Of course, we were supportive and decided to send a letter to the city to support that proposed ban.
It's cruel. It's ridiculous.
Susan Smith and Raymond Zeeb work with the...
I'm really angry. We should have the right to feed some homeless animals. I believe it's what God would want us to do.
The council is scheduled to vote on the ordinance next Tuesday.
Once word started going around that they were, trying to ban feeding of feral cats on public property, the people who had been doing that for years were up in arms, immediately.
So, are you guys ready to save some more cats? Woohoo!
More than just Alley Cat Allies, more than just those of us that are doing TNR, the movement is very large. And Alley Cat Allies has 250,000 activists that stay in touch with us all over the country. And when they need help, they call us. Laws are local, so there's no federal law that's going to fix this, folks. And often that's brought up. We just got to go right to the top. Oh, I wish. But it's all local, city and county and state. So the CAT group in Antioch called us for help. And we were glad to send letters to the city council and educate them on why this kind of knee-jerk reaction of proposing a feeding ban wasn't going to work. We offered them a grant if they were to select Trap, Neuter, Return, if they were to choose to implement that. Go back and look at this beautiful cats. You can see them in 1990, black and white tuxedo cats. When you're going and you're trapping these cats, you're changing minds of people. We dispelled myths. We changed the community. We brought neighbors together. We changed cat care forever.
Well, yeah, I hadn't had any experience with a feeding ban or the cat advocates, if you will, and so I was a little bit surprised about how they got organized and ran out there and made a lot of noise.
Welcome, Ms. Corin.
Hello. My name is Michelle. I am a foster at HARP, and I have 4 fosters at the moment. This guy is Martin. He's one of the little ones. So I think that TNR would be like the best way to stop the overpopulation of cats so that none of these cats just starve, and because they don't deserve to starve, they deserve to have a right to live.
Okay.
I work downtown, and if we have a bunch of starving, sick cats running around, nobody's going to come down here to eat or shop. That's the wrong thing to do.
The cats are not the villains in this. It's the ones who have dumped them.
You have volunteers spending their time and money. We deserve your cooperation and your appreciation and not citations.
And you should deny this program because you're going to eat a meal later and you'll eat one tomorrow. And
Thank
then
you.
cats are going to eat one too.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Z.
Okay. At that meeting, probably 2/3 of the room was filled with cat protection groups. They were applauded and cheered and so forth.
Paul Shore, Nancy Shore.
There were about 6 of us from Mount Diablo Audubon Society.
First of all, I strongly urge the City Council to adopt the revised animal ordinance.
Trap, neuter, release does not address public health concerns, and it does not reduce wildlife impacts.
Feral cats are not a natural resource. Thank you.
Nothing in this ordinance stops anyone in this room from doing a TNR program. Doesn't. You know what? I listened to you. I'm sorry. You should have some respect for this office.
Okay. So we have a motion from Ms. Rocha and a second from Mr. Gopian. Please cast your votes. 4 affirmative votes, 1 negative vote. The motion passes. Thank you all for your passion.
Okay. It's very disappointing. We bust our butts working to get the food, and now we're being told, just stop. That's pretty hard to do. Almost impossible, actually.
I had no idea this was going to go on like this. How were we going to enforce this when they do it at night, when we don't have officers on the street?
I'm a really law-abiding citizen. I don't even get tickets. But I just can't let the cats die.
We've asked them to please do it discreetly if they're going to be doing it. But they're still putting it on the sidewalks. They're still overfeeding. They're still going in areas where they're not supposed to be going. You know, I told them not to, and they're still doing it.
I'm not going to stop feeding cats. We'll feed at night. We'll feed them like ninjas. We love those cats. Those cats depend on us. And some of them, yeah, they love us. I don't know if you believe that cats can love I believe animals can live.
There are two ways to looking at feral cats in North America. One is that they're pets that have sort of gone astray, and we should be looking after them. The other way to look at them is that they're invasive animals that are destroying native wildlife. And in fact, they're both.
Is there anything more fun than a family of little kittens?
Americans have a peculiar love for cats.
You should know about Cat Fancy, the magazine especially written for people who love cats.
As familiars, as companions. And that sets them apart from other animals in the United States that have gone feral, and there are dozens.
Meow, 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 meow.
Now, why a cat, out of all the animals, evokes this response in people?
No, we don't gnaw on our kitty. Just love him.
Poets have written about it, novels have been written about it. And it seems that cats have just the right balance of caring for you and being indifferent to you that allows you to paint upon that little mind anything you want. The question really is what constitutes humane control of these animals.
There you go.
Trap, neuter, return, it sounds really, really good.
Come on, baby.
I hate when that happens. Come on, kitty.
The problem with it in practice is that it's almost impossible to get every single individual.
Kitty. Come on. Fingers crossed.
So you're never going to get every individual in a population. So there's going to be somebody in there breeding.
I think I hear kittens. Oh no, no, no.
For a reasonable sized mammal, they're astonishingly fecund.
Oh my gosh, they just keep coming.
They're so capable of multiplying their numbers.
Jane, I desperately need someone in your group to take 5 kittens. I just found them. I don't know if you're aware that I've been trapping at a house that has like over 50 cats. Oh, Killy? Yeah. Okay, good to meet you finally. Good to meet you too.
I appreciate the fact that people into TNR want to take responsibility. Neutering them is a great idea, but if it's simply a symbolic idea, it's not taking responsibility. Catching them, sterilizing them, putting them back out again. Right? Nobody likes to kill feral cats. Maybe somebody does, but that's not, no, they don't say it. You know, but they also worry about, you know, the animals the feral cats are taking. Basically, because if a typical female cat has say, let's say only 3 female daughters, right? Cat populations were not significantly going down. Our calculations show that you need to have about 75% of the female cats be sterilized. And that's maybe about 10 times as many, roughly, as their present efforts are making.
Come on, come out and get your lovin'. Now don't you keep me in suspense.
Imagine introducing a single pregnant female cat to an island. If she could produce 3 female kittens plus herself by the end of the year, then that means the population will multiply by 4 in 1 year. Next year, if the same thing happens, then there'll be 16. The year after that, if the same thing happens, there'll be 64.
Meow, meow, meow.
That's an enormous rate of growth. If you had money in the bank at that kind of rate, you would be delighted. You would, in fact, be owning the world after a very few years. And so would cats.
Sitting on a backyard.
Haven't seen that one before. So I have to get her fixed.
The second problem is there's no way to account for immigration. You might have your population in your little town square under control, but 2 towns over they don't. And that population is going to be growing and pushing cats out, and they're going to find their way to your habitat and breed there.
Where did you come from? There's a tortie right there, and I've never seen her before. And sometimes it takes a while. There was a Siamese that took me probably 6 months to get it. Yep, there she goes. Hi, little Manxy girl. Calm down.
So the TNR program has to be ongoing all the time. And the scale of that problem is almost impossible to fathom. The number of cats that have to be caught and returned after they've been spayed or neutered is enormous.
There you go.
And well beyond the budget of any management group.
Just don't like it out where anyone can see it.
The feral feeding sort of continues without consequence. The city, I think, underestimated the passion of some of these folks.
Come on, Isabella. Hi, Louisa.
They're not going to obey the law, and so therefore the city has to kind of figure something out with them or throw them all in jail. And they're not going to throw 85-year-old or, however old he is, Ray Zeeb, they're not going to put these people in jail over this. To my knowledge, they haven't even issued any citations.
Okay, we gotta go right.
So they're kind of forced back to the discussion table with the cat rescue groups.
They kind of thought that we would go away, we would give up, but no, we stuck through it and just insisted that the cats needed to eat.
I asked to be on that committee, and unfortunately, they haven't met at this point, to my knowledge. I don't want to say I was excluded.
Hi, yeah, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for permitting us to go forward with this TNR program. Thank you guys too for your ongoing efforts and putting up with us through this process.
It's like being Leslie Knope at a community meeting in Parks and Recreation. But it's whether it's the cat issue or another issue, you can get people that are very passionate about their position and they're sure they're right. And so cities are often in the position of having to try to mediate and try to get a compromise.
You want to go to Celia's? Okay. All right. Why don't you and I go? Let's get in my Volvo.
Okay.
And let's go pick up cats. Okay.
The solution to the problem of feral cats in the United States is really difficult. When pigs go feral, it's easy enough for people to go out and shoot them. No problem with that at all. Fully sanctioned by law. In fact, it's encouraged. But cats are a completely different story. Cats really have only been our friends. They've only been our companions. We as a society have a hard time saying that we should just go out and just kill them all, even if that's what the ecological data suggest might be the best solution. The bird people are in sort of a bind because in the court of public opinion, unseen birds in the bush and small rodents will lose out to a cute cat. There's no doubt. America will back the cat.
I think that most people really don't understand biodiversity. They're not concerned about it. Only when something impacts their lives directly is it really going to be meaningful to them, and then they will want to seek a solution. From beak to tail, it's about this big. No Child Left Inside program began in 2007. So this last May, we completed 8 years of offering this program to local school children.
Those are ducks.
To introduce them into the joy of nature, the understanding of nature, through the study of birds.
Okay, boys and girls, I'd like all of you to come right here. Unfortunately, one of the main reasons that we don't see quail in our neighborhoods like we used to is because of outdoor cats. So I guess my whole point is, if you have a cat, keep it indoors.
We're not going to reach every child, but those that we do reach, hopefully will have an impact as decision makers in the future.
This is my sanctuary that I put together. Got a few little houses for the kitties to come out here and a little grass to roll around in. The reason we decided to build it was even if I only had 3 or 4 cats, I don't want them running around and bothering people and doing everything.
You are so beautiful, Whitey.
Everything wants to live, and I want everything to live. The last thing I want is for a cat to get into a nest of little quail or pheasants or any little thing. But the cats are here. And the ones that I can't bring here, I do the best I can for.
This has been the worst year for kittens I've ever seen. I've done a lot of TNR this year, and everywhere I go, it seems like I'm finding a litter of kittens. It feels very discouraging, very overwhelming, considering all the hours and all the personal time I've spent out here doing this. You think you would notice a difference or a decline in the kitten population. Some of my family members don't understand what motivates me to do this. But you can't walk away from it. It's just once you're in it, it's hard, to even consider walking away from it. Somebody has to do it, and, that's just it. Somebody has to do it. Okay.
There are several different value systems out there, and people differ about what they think our responsibility is. I, as a population biologist, feel that overall our human responsibility is to more of nature as a whole, to the communities, to the ecosystems, to the diversity, rather than to the individuals. So from that standpoint, I'm perfectly willing to sterilize or even kill a cat if it's going to wind up eating a lot of nature. The democratic society winds up arguing about a lot and trying to find compromises. The truth is, I don't think we can get rid of feral cats in most places. So we may think we've got a great deal of power, and we do, but we can't get rid of these little creatures that are so good at living around us and among us.